to wherever you are. This is the Rugby Show live with Boa Athu. And Boa, it's already finals week. What do you think? School's rugby season has just kicked off and we are in for some trophy action.
I know, is it? So yeah, like I said, a very good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. Thank you very much for joining what is now essentially the Island Nation's number one rugby show. It's been proven on the stats we've been looking at and following. So, thank you very much to you, our fans, our viewers, our followers. Yeah, it's been tremendous. So, yeah, I just want to say thank you again for your support. That's right, Jaigi, 3 weeks in. And this is why I have been advocating to start the season with a knockout. You know, it's an excitement, it's an uncertainty, the unpredictability. And I think the fans are really getting into it because they really want to see their side do well. They want to see their teams go all the way. And there's nothing like starting the season with some silverware, you know, and we can start to really see the fans getting into it. The online back and forth, the online banter, and of course um, we're seeing some top quality games starting to show up as well. Last week, the semi-finals, very exciting, and of course we got a cracking final which we will get into. So now, look again, outstanding to be here, and as always, thank you very much for having me on the Rugby Show Quadrangle Facebook Live.
Indeed, Boa. But now, before we tackle the elephant in the room, I think, which is the school's rugby knockout, a quick review on the overall rugby. I think the talk of the town, the New Zealand under 85s here in Colombo. I was privileged enough, having missed the game in my hometown, I was privileged enough to be at the racecourse, and what an electrifying atmosphere that was. It was like a dream come true for many people to see the Hakai in the flesh, and I think the boys did a much better performance that weekend, albeit that we lost a trophy. I think it is a much more improved performance from the Tuskers. But this atmosphere for rugby is something that Sri Lanka has been lacking for a long time. We played under lights, and the entirety of the race course was packed. It was like a Sri Lanka cricket game. It was a very important game for the Sri Lankan rugby community. Boa, what's your overall take on this entire tour to Sri Lanka? Was it a positive? How do you think Sri Lanka rugby is going to improve out of this tour? And what more can we see in the future? Do you think this format can improve much further for Sri Lanka?
100%. I think outstanding work, and I have to say a big congratulations to obviously Sri Lanka rugby. And the irony is they're on the verge of a suspension from World Rugby, and we've had arguably the most successful few or a couple of weeks in the history of the recent past. And I have to give a massive shout out to someone who I know very very well, someone very special, good friend of mine, Intisha Marika, the former Trinity Lion, former CR and Candy and Sri Lanka winger. He was an outstanding player in his day. He's one of the linchpins involved in this. His collaboration, particularly with Sir Graham Henry in New Zealand, I think outstanding work from Inti, and of course the organizing committee as a whole. As far as Sri Lanka rugby goes, yes, I think it's a massive win. The win, particularly in putting Sri Lanka on the rugby map, the world scale. People have really, stood up and they've taken notice. Looking at the crowds, the response to the New Zealand under 85 kg team, and keep in mind, as far as the representative scale, as I said last week, the 85 kg and under it's a restricted age grade here in clubland. It sits sort of around the third, fourth tier, without being too unkind to them, as far as priority and the pecking order, pretty much, because you have your Premier Rugby, then you have your Premier Development or the Reserve grade, then your First grade, and then that's you probably have your 85 and under restricted, because again, with this tour, what it will do, particularly here in New Zealand, is we will start seeing more players who leave school, who can't quite make it to the Premier grade, and also who sort of miss out in the under 21s. There's another competitive grade coming in based on weight restrictions. So I think it's a huge win-win, and the most important thing is the publicity, the PR, and just the social media presence. It's just gone completely viral, and I think some of these New Zealand players, they're living their dream, because they, not in a million years, not in a lifetime, would they have ever experienced this. Because best case scenario here, you'll have a few hundred people watching on a Saturday afternoon, just having a few casual drinks on the sideline, and that's probably it. But to play in front of a stadium where you have 25,000, not just 1 week but 2 weeks back to back, outstanding work. So to answer your question, a massive win for Sri Lanka Rugby, and
Pardon
congratulations
me
to
for
everyone.
the connection issues. I hope it's much better right now.
It is now. I think we're back on.
Yeah.
So I know long-winded answer, but I had to make those points because, yeah, outstanding, huge win for rugby in Sri Lanka.
All right. Pardon me. I think I had a small connection issue. Don't mind me. But I think we can have a small glimpse at the haka. I think it was extraordinary that we got to see it right here in Colombo. A powerful gesture by the new moment. Get back right on the way for the chat.
And folks, I think that was a very, very powerful rendition of the Kamate Haka. It's the icon of the pinnacle of New Zealand rugby. Whenever we have a representative New Zealand team play a game of rugby, they perform it. So it's quite spine tingling. And what I love about it is the complete appreciation of the local crowd, how they were in pretty much perfect silence, fixated on the haka. And I think it really captured the essence of what it meant, and also the cultural enrichment of the haka. And that it's synonymous with New Zealand rugby, particularly, of course, when the All Blacks do it. But I have to say, the NZ under 85 kgs, they did an outstanding job themselves. So yeah, tremendous work, and I'd say great videography, great cinematography from our good friends at the papre.com, for whom we are very thankful for allowing us to use that footage. So I'll pass it over to you, Jagith. Hopefully you're back on. I know we're having a few technical issues from the end in Colombo. Hopefully it's been sorted out now.
I guess tech is not, or I think tech is not on my side today, and I'm extremely sorry for the really unusual lack of tech support for me today, but I guess we're on live right now, and I guess we can continue the chat much better right now. Okay, now let's get into the main talking point, the knockout semi-finals. I think we had two crackers of a game. One at Royal Complex, Zaira taking on Trinity, and then we had probably one of the best comebacks you could see in a losing cause, Royal taking on Isipatana. We'll first focus at the Royal Sports Complex, Trinity versus Zaira. Now, let's be very honest. A lot of people had speculated that this would have been a much more one-sided affair, given the performances or given certain speculations that certain people had made. But I think Zahir defied all the odds in the room and gave a spectacular performance to give a really good fight for that final spot, scoring off a brilliant rolling maul while also being 12 all at halftime. Boa, did you see that performance coming?
Well, I certainly did, at least in the first half, because if you recall last week when we were doing the hot seat and predictions, I did say the most likely outcome is Trinity to win between somewhere between 7 to 15 points. Eventually ended up just slightly above that. But again, this is knockout footy. It is winner takes all, and of course, Zaira, they were really up for it. They pumped themselves up, and you're right, the rolling maul try was outstanding. And how ironic was it playing at Jurassic Park, the home of my old school, Royal College, who have mastered the art of the fishtail driving mode. So, yeah, I think it was outstanding effort from Zahira. And I think this season, if they can improve their overall staying power, be able to maintain their fitness, their conditioning for 70 minutes, I think this Zahira side is going to be a handful. They will be problematic for some of the top teams. But again, it's just about finishing the game, and that's where Trinity had, too many guns, too many arms in their armory, so to speak, if I may use that analogy. And of course, Shan Altaf, is turning into quite a game changer. I have to say, I was a little bit not skeptical. I was just a bit unsure that his positional switch from first five going to fullback. But I think two solid performances back to back, he's pretty much put that to bed. He's such a versatile player, and he's one of those really unassuming players where or you think at least you've got him covered, but next thing you know, he's like a slippery eel. He's gone, leaving you for dead. And here's the major thing: his kicking radar still isn't quite on song. When he does, it's going to be a treat. And as you can recall, yours truly, last year, Bradby Shield. Yeah, the prediction, it was like lotto numbers and the first division and the Powerball come true. Much thanks to, you guessed it, Shan Altaf. So, well, was not putting too much pressure on this young man, and I think he's fully capable. What everyone else in this Trinity side is doing is they're just playing around him. They're doing their job description really well, and this is a very good form line they're building. And yeah, it was a great game, but well done to Zaira as well. I know I just kind of wandered off the
Absolutely,
track
Boa.
there.
But one major one major concern is about how this is knockout footy, and you can't let your rivals as tough as Isipatana to slip away with even a slender lead in the first half. You saw how Isipatana just took the game away from Royal in that semi-final at Sugurdasa, where all they had to do, all they really did was make up a massive first half lead.
Yeah, it certainly did. I think the first 15 minutes they had a 21-point lead. That was just, you know, it was game over at that point. It was just far too much to catch up, particularly against a quality opposition as the defending champions, the Green Machine, Sipatana. And again, a couple of weeks back, I did mention that one of the strategies in knockout footy is, you go hard and try to finish the game early. And I think Isipathan kind of bought into that. And what surprised me a lot with Isipathan, which we'll get into in a moment, is how their forwards in that first quarter dominated the Royal forward pack or the Royal team as a whole. And you're right, you just cannot spot 𝗥𝘂𝗏, a team of that quality, a 20 plus point margin. And I think eventually that was the undoing of the Tuskers, and the difference came down to the conversions and of course that penalty. So all in all, it was a terrific game. Your quintessential Royal 𝗥𝘂𝗏 rivalry, but congratulations to 𝗥𝘂𝗏 for making it to yet another knockout final. I think it's 4 in a row. It's outstanding work. I think we've got a few tech issues here at Colombo headquarters, and while we are at it, I might as well jump on it. Yeah, we have to give credit to Royal as well, because it was a stunning comeback, and they could have almost equalized with a potential try and the pending conversion right at the end, but obviously that didn't happen, because if it was a lesser side being 21-5 at halftime, I was a little bit worried that there might be a bit of a blowout, and that would have been quite a psychological blow to the Reed Avenue team. But that didn't happen. They fought back. They showed a lot of character, a lot of determination. They came back, and it was quite a spectacle. It was a very close game, well fought, and I just wish that Royal hadn't given up such a lead in the first half. They could have very well gone all the way and potentially topple the Green Machine, but that wasn't to be. And that's how the cookie crumbles. So you're absolutely right, Shagit. And I know I had quite a few questions about this as well, about what the factor was when it came to the first half lead, and how well that was the eventual winning or losing. So I think, yeah, it's no doubt that first 10-15 minutes, that 𝗥𝘂𝗏 blitz, that was the eventual difference.
Hi, Boa. I hope I'm visible again. Well,
You certainly are,
to our,
Jagit. You're
to our,
looking very handsome there, young man.
oh, thanks for the compliments. But to our viewers, I'm extremely sorry. Well, I don't know. The cell towers are probably not in my favor today. But I think the place where I last left off was about, I guess if it was covered, then great. But it was about how, given that Trinity have to play ideally the knockout specialists in the upcoming game, whether whether Trinity having a first half that was as flimsy as the Zahira game, let's say, will that be a disadvantage to their favor? Because you saw how 𝗥𝘂𝗏 just ran away with the first half at Sugadasa, and that was pretty much the game for them, because all they had to do in the second half was to sort of defend the Royal comeback. And if Royal had at least 5 more minutes, if it was a 40 per half game, I think Royal would have put it to bed. But unfortunately, they just couldn't. So, Boa, how important is your first half, or how important is it to stay on your feet from the very first minute, especially in a knockout final?
Absolutely. It is vital, and I think so. To answer your question, yeah, it was a bit of a shaky start against Zahira for Trinity, but come the final, what I'm expecting is I think both teams will lift. The intensity will be visibly higher, and I think both teams will be aware that they can't go to sleep, or they can't go to cruise mode for even a couple of minutes, because for Trinity, against a team like 𝗥𝘂𝗏, who have the potential, and we now know that they have a solid forward pack, because when was the last time you saw 𝗥𝘂𝗏 forward pack actually dominate a Royal forward pack for a good chunk of the game? You'd expect it's the back division, and again, 𝗥𝘂𝗏, I think they've really, I have to say they're very closely watching this show, because they've been using that tactical kicking out of hand a lot, and we saw them construct an outstanding try using a 50-22. It was a 70-meter gain, and then they went to a short line out. They forced Royal to give up a penalty, and immediately they take the short tap, and then they go over. So they've kind of evolve their game rather than just be a team who attacks from everywhere and just spins it out wide at any given opportunity. Yeah, they do have that capability, but they've become a team who what I call is playing what's in front of them. So they have a very simple game plan. It's what you call a heads up play. They look up, they see what's in front, and they play what's in front. So that's, to me, great game management. Now, as far as the finals go, I don't think Trinity will be as lax as they did against Zahira when they come up against Isipatana. And I guess the game plan here is from either side. What is their tactical approach? Are they going to go hard from the first minute, or are they going to look to manage the whole game so that they play it in little chunks? Now, from a coaching point of view, and I've got quite a bit of experience playing knockout competitions here in Auckland. What I tend to do is I always try and break the game into little chunks. So if it's an 80-minute game, what I tend to do is I break it into um, 4 10-minute chunks a half. So we have basically 8 chunks of 10 minutes, and we set ourselves goals, a certain points range within those uh, little time brackets or chunks. And so, for example, if we score at least 5 points in a 10-minute time bracket, we have 8 time brackets. In theory, we should have 40 points, and 40 points, unless you're playing a outstanding opposition, chance are you going to win. Now, it doesn't always happen like that, but again, it just comes down to your planning and your game management. So I think Isipatana will, using their forwards, will want to get ahead early, build a bit of a buffer, build a bridge, and then kind of manage that back end. But against a side like Trinity, because like I said, they have a real match winner in Altaf, and of course the rest of the team, they're starting to really play to some really nice patterns, which I've noticed. So it's the way I see it. I think this game is going to be punch, counter punch, counter punch. I think it'll probably be a high-scoring game if we have a fast, firm surface where there's going to be a lot of sunshine. And it's going to be a lot closer. And the reason for that, as I said right at the beginning of this little segment, is both teams are indeed going to lift in intensity. So I think we can look forward to a tremendous game, a tremendous final. And the way I see it, it's going to be a very closely fought game. And keep in mind the venue. Now, if it was at the stadium, I think, and again, as defending champions who won the knockout final at the stadium last year, Isipatan are absolute firm favorites. But now it's at Jurassic Park. Now, this is a venue Trinity are starting to get a leasehold on, right? And then they know this venue. And I don't know what it is, but there's just something about the venue, and statistically, it favors certain opposition. So this, I think, has really evened everything out. But don't forget, this is Trinity's 4th trip in 4 weeks, coming down to Columbus. That's almost 1,000+ kilometers of travel. So at some point, it has to take toll as well. So there's a whole raft of factors we need to analyze, look at the form line. And that's why this game is so intriguing to analyze.
Indeed, bro. I think I'll always back my boys from Candy outside of this show, for sure. But coming into the real opposition, I think I see a big threat in players like Nimanta Sandeep from Isipatana, the nippy scrum half. I think he basically created almost all the chances in that first half, aggressive out of the ruck, that quick tap right out of the 50-22 line out to create that first try. And his overall kicking game, I think he's Shan Altaf's direct counterpart at Isipatana, although he's playing at scrum half, and the team built around him, Shakib Zumbi at number 8, and the backline playing at an incredible pace. What do you make of the Royal game and how Isipatana dominated the first half? And what do you think actually gave them so much of opportunity now that we're at the topic of Isipatana playing Royal at the stadium? What made what happened with what do you think happened with Royal in that first half, and what suddenly clicked for them to make such an impressive comeback?
Yeah, I think that first 20 minutes, Isipatana were very direct. They took the shortest route to the try line, and that sort of caught Royal a bit on the hop, I think. They were just slightly napping and they were in cruise mode. Because if you look at that defensive line, whenever they gave those tries away, I look at the footage a number of times. They weren't putting as much line speed as they should have, and they were waiting for the Sivadana ball carriers to come to them, and that kind of put them in an awkward spot. And soon as Isipatana broke the gain line, it was very, very difficult. And as I said, they didn't really expect the Isipatana forward pack to do all that carrying and take the shortest route home. Because even in that first try off that 50-22, leading into that line out and that quick tap, you could see the Royal defenders to the right hand, to the right edge. They were folding very quickly and they were trying to kind of fan out as quickly as they could, anticipating an attack out wide onto that left edge. But that didn't happen. What did happen was obviously the number 8, Shakib Zumri, takes decides to carry, and then he basically went through 4 defenders and scored a try. So I think that's where the difference was. And in the second half, they really turned up. They amplified their intensity and they turned up a notch in how they showed up. They carried hard. They ran into the Sipatan opposition. And again, it just shows to you that once you get the physicality, Royals' number one weapon is the physicality. All right, and if they can consistently keep that, they're a very, very difficult side to stop. It's just that they've had patches of inconsistency when it comes to that. And of course, if you don't do the cash and carry, as I call it, as well as you're supposed to, you're susceptible to being a little bit predictable. So these are some of the key points. But the way Royal actually showed character and pride in what they do to come back. As you know, Royce, I felt very, very proud, and there's something to learn there because, as I said, spotting 21 points to 5, and I'm sure most of these Patana fans would have thought, yeah, we've got this, and we're probably going to pile another 20 points on the opposition. But what could have been a blowout ended up being, as you said, one of the comebacks of the season. And in the end, the difference was the kick set goal. Take the points. Yep. Isipatana converted their tries. And of course, when they got that opportunity to get ahead, they took the 3 points, they nailed it. And that's pretty much eventually all she wrote.
Indeed, Boa. Now, turning our attention into something outside of the game, I think an improvement of the game is the amount of blue cards that we've seen in the span of this knockout tournament. Last week it was Trinity against Zahia. We saw a blue card issued to the number 4 from Trinity for a concussion, and right at the top of this game against the game between Isipatan and Royal, we saw Idris Farouk going off with a blue card, and then a very, very unfortunate incident with the Isipatanian backliner also going off with a blue card. So I think player safety is paramount, and I think the Sri Lankan schools rugby circuit is taking into much higher consideration now. But why do you think the game has come to such a place where we are seeing more and more head injuries? Because this is in the span of maybe 5-6 games that we're seeing so many blue cards being issued. What do you make of this? I
Okay,
hate to ask this question, but
no, look,
is
it's
rugby
it's it's a
getting a
great
bit more riskier?
it's a great question, and this is an area I have spent probably the last 8 years being involved in research, coming up with solutions. Came up with a program called STF, Safe Tackle Framework. It's called Tackle Below the Line. What we did was we put a line on playing shirts on the sternum and the biceps, and you tackle below the line. And the whole idea was to try and prevent head-on-head contact and any high contact which involves shoulder to head. Now, the reason why we are seeing a lot of collisions and injuries around the contact is because the intensity of the game has stepped up a notch. And one of the downsides to this is we are seeing, even though there is so much information and so much awareness around how you get into contact, we're seeing players for some reason, and I hope uh, I'm wrong on this. There is something telling them to go high into contact. It's what we call chest on chest. So for example, you see this crest on my chest. It's what we call chest on chest, crest on crest. The ball carrier and the tackler would enter into a slightly higher position. Now, the reason for this is to prevent the offloading of the ball in contact. Now, this whole thing came in from rugby league in the particular. I recall the 2011 World Cup. We saw this coming in, and you know that's led to this coaching of getting into a higher than normal tackle position. Now, I would love to see all players being coached to bend at their knees and bend at their waist and get into a tackle where the contact or the entry point is much lower. So your sternum, so that's just below. You can see where my chest, the crests are just below that. You know, in and around that tummy area. It's called a tummy tackle. So I think that's one of the reasons, and of course the other element is we're seeing much bigger players, much stronger players, and as they get bigger and stronger, they start running into each other a lot harder and faster. So those are, I think, the two main reasons. But with the blue cards, that's a great initiative because it's been there for a while, but it's being used more regularly now because I think the referee society, they've obviously been doing a lot of training and education. Obviously, we had Bryce Lawrence from New Zealand come in, run a couple of workshops. So there's a lot more awareness and people are talking about this, and also they're taking concussion seriously. So I think those are some of the factors, but hopefully we don't see as many injuries in the coming weeks. But there's one element of the game as well. You will see people get injured. This is a contact sport. We just need to try and do everything we can to minimize it.
Indeed, bro. I think with your expertise in tackling, I think that's a pretty summarized answer of what we need to look forward to. And I think, like we all agree on, player safety is something that not just in Sri Lanka but across the globe, it has been extensively spoken upon. And it's really great to see how player safety is actually being put up on that top. And players being given priority, it's ultimately their life over the game, although the game is their life when you play for school. Now, before I wrap up my segment, I think the talk of the town moment that we have is that final play from Royal. It was really a hit or a miss, but we saw Yuan Patirana making a very bold move. Now, to me personally, I think that was a great decision to make because he saw the space, he spotted the space, but unfortunately, the try lines at Sugadasa weren't to his favor. But what do you make of that move? Had it been scored, he would have been the hero. But what do you make of such bold decisions being made, especially in a dying moment of such an encounter? And obviously, the the whole issue around whether it was a legal clearance or not. What do you make of it?
Yeah, look, my inbox was absolutely slammed this week, asking me all these questions. So you're talking about this last play, and the young man Yuan. Look, I think he was extremely brave, and Yuan, if you're watching, you've got to be very proud of yourself, son, because it takes real guts and it takes real spine to pull something like that. And clearly, you've been obviously practicing it, and the week before against DS, you pulled off something very similar. It was very successful. So I can fully understand as to why they're doing it, and also I have to applaud Royal College. They brought this little innovation into their game. Although, I think they're just slightly overdoing the kick. But that's just part and parcel of schoolboy rugby. You learn. And to pull it off, last play, deciding play in a knockout semi-final, that takes some real guts. So I think, well done to him. Um, Look, with that option, I mean, I went through this footage, and these are some of the scenarios I, as a coach, I have done with some of my players, and we have pulled off some big games. The thing is, with the chip and chase, it's what you call testing the air. All right. Now, if you go back and have a look at that play where the Sipatana defenders were a little bit thin defending that left edge. Had the ball bounced, the luck of the ball bounced inwards and favorable, the player would have gathered and scored, no question. And had the ball not bounced as much, again, that would have fallen right in the breadbasket and Royal would have scored. But that wasn't the case. Okay, so that's a risk you run when you test the air or go for the chip and chase. Um, maybe a slight variation or a better option, and again, this is just my view of the matter, would have probably been, look for grass. Look for grass. By that I mean a grubber, where the bounce is probably not going to be as high because you're not, getting that trajectory of a kick testing the air. Or you just work your hands. But I don't think you can say much else about it other than it was quite brave, and I think it's a breath of fresh air. It's very refreshing to see young players, young men try these things, and particularly Royal, who are have been I've been critical of them in the past as well, being one dimensional. So they're bringing different things to the game. So I think that's a great thing. Now, the burning question, of course, and this has just got nuts on the internet, is obviously the Royal player. He jumps up in the air to catch the ball, and it looked like there was a momentary shove or touch or push, call it what you may, from the Sipatana defender. And there was a bit of a debate as to whether, one, was it a penalty try? Or number two, there's nothing wrong with it. Just play on. It's part of the game, and that's full time. Or number three, this was the hot topic. Was there something a little bit more than it, and maybe it should have been referred further. But this brings me to the main point. Normal speed, impossible to call it, because this is why you need a TMO. This is why you need a referral system. You slow it down, have multiple angles, and of course, this year, our official broadcaster, and I have to say thanks to papre.com, they've jacked up their prices on the tariffs on the season pass, so there's no shortage of revenue there, and I think it's really important that we get a TMO. We get these camera angles because there is a big demand to watch these games. So the viewers need to be given a really good bird's eye view into this, and we have to explore every option available for technology. Now, had a TMO been there, it would have been very simple because I did go have a look at the footage. I looked at reverse angles, looked at photos. To me, it's very clear that the Royal player who was up in the air just before there's any contact actually loses control of the ball, and the ball is indeed propelled forward. So therefore, there's really nothing to see. There's no need for any argument there saying that there should have been a penalty try. No, it was just he just lost control. Play on. That's the final whistle, and it's full time, game over. One thing I do have to say is there were a number of dubious decisions, and again, my inbox has been flooded with it. There's one instance, and again, I'm not trying to lay blame on players here. I'm just saying these things happen. It would be a lot easier if we have a TMO and a referral system so that we can get on top of these. There's one instance where I think a Sipatana player was taken out without the ball. That looked a little bit clumsy and cynical almost. Should have been yellow card. There was no yellow card. There's a few instances I thought players were offside, and this kind of went both ways. So yeah, I think it's it's really really important in the final we have a TMO, and also it'd be really nice if we could hear what the referees are saying. Yeah, like you and I are talking to the rest of the world now, they can hear what we are saying. Imagine if we were on mute and everyone was trying to lip read. So these are two things I think which need to come in. But to address the burning question, and I know a lot of people will be dying to hear this, so I'll say it again. The last play, yeah, it was just play on. Yeah, player lost control, and there's nothing in it. But I understand as to why some quarters would have asked the penalty, potential penalty, try or double check at least a penalty because real time it looked a little bit sus. But without a TMO, you can't conclusively say anything. Okay.
Indeed, to any of the viewers who did not see that footage, we have the footage ready for you. This is 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏 final kick, and with that, I will be signing off after what was a turbulent shift from my part. But thank you so much. And Boa will continue with my good old buddy Tehran Basir. Over to you, Tehran. I will catch Tehran right after the footage. For now, it's good night from me.
Here's you one. Oh my goodness. That's going to be an interesting call.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was the footage of which my buddy Jagit and, of course, the man, the myth legend Boat were talking about regarding the final try attempt from Royal College. And with that, I just want to greet everyone here watching the live show. This is your favorite Karan Basir here on the show. Thank you so much, Jagit, for taking on the first segment. And Boa, welcome back. As always, glad to have you. So far, Boa, I just want you to any comments on that footage that display? Any further comments to our viewers before I start the segment, which is the basic remark up to me try of the week? Boa, before we start.
Buzz, it's lovely to see you with your red shirt back on the campaign trail. Now, look, it was to me. Once you slow it down and once you look at the angles, I think it's pretty obvious that it was a bit of a harmless sort of thing, and because the role player had to jump up and try and catch the ball, sort of loses control, and the Sipatan player to his credit, he sort of last moment just timed it literally perfectly. And he didn't try to overdo it, because had he literally taken him out in there, then it would have been, even though there was the ball being lost forward, had he actually taken him out, then that would have been a real problem. So look, it is what it is. No harm done. It's just nothing to see there. Just play on. But one thing I do have to say is this now. I have to say this. It's got to a point in the game of rugby that if there's any sort of dynamic movement, or if there's anything dynamic which even looks remotely close, that there is potential contact or otherwise, there's this expectation that we must check it. It's got to that point. It's normalized. So it's a double-edged sword. It really is, because end of the day, rugby is a game of contact. It's a full contact. Not full contact. It's a contact sport. Beg your pardon. And within the laws of the game, and I for one, I'm a big fan and a believer. And when I coach players to make sure that when we get into contact, the opposition really need to feel it. So you've got to be very careful now, because all it takes is one nanosecond too late or early, you're risking potentially a yellow or red card. So but that's where this game has now got to. you're kind of walking on eggshells sometimes. And I don't think that's a good thing at all. I really don't. Players need to be able to express themselves. But that's just a little offshoot of this whole thing. And I've been actually wanting to get that off my chest for a while. So thank you for asking me, Buzz.
Absolutely, Boa. No worries. I am sure everyone, especially the Royalist fans, Patna fans, I'm sure they're happy about Boa. Thank you so much for that. Let's move on for the next segment, which is the Prima Kottumi try of the week. And Boa has listed down two tries, which we will be showing to you live viewers in just a bit. And be the Shan try against Zahira. I think it's at the 14th minute of the game, which is basically, and just to before we just show, let's talk about Shan. What a skillful player. I mean, he reminds me of the All Black David, the Dorian McKenzie. I mean, the skill, the speed, the reactions that he takes, literally the Trinity version of David. Really, really, from the start. And I'm sure the viewers also would agree with. But anything to say before we play the clip, anyways?
A special player, I think, and I like him. I like this kid a lot, and he's just very, very soft spoken and very nonchalant about it as well. And I was talking about this before with Jugs, and I was a little bit not skeptical, but I was a little bit uncertain as to when he moved from first five to fullback. But I think those fears have been completely alleviated because he's such a versatile player, and I think he's improving week by week, and he's got a very varied skill set, and he's equally as good ball in hand as he is with kicking goals from halfway. So now, very special player.
Absolutely. And the next clip we'll be showing out is the Patna try against Royal College. Shahid Zumri, the brother of Shahid Zumri, scoring the opening try for his try off against Royal. I think it was at the 10th minute, 28-second of the match. It was a quick tap right at the 22. I'm sure the clips are available. We'll be showing them right away. But again, boy, I mean, Shahid Zumri taking right now in Quadrangle College. Any of your thoughts, Boa?
As I said before, the Isipathan forward pack, they took the shortest route home. They played what's in front, and I think they just sort of caught Royal a little bit napping on the hop in that first 10, 15 minutes, and they built, they converted that pressure into points. And of course, what really stood out to me was that tactically on the hand, there's 50-22s, and they used the wind downfield in that first half really well towards the right-hand corner, and obviously that's what led to that first try, which we're going to have a look at the footage. So I think a high degree of rugby IQ, a lot of rugby intelligence, and clearly, I know he's watching this, Coach Bots. Well done. I think you're starting to read the game really well, and you're clearly listening to what we talk about, and that's really good stuff. And I can see Isipathan improve from a tactical point of view on a sort of weekly basis, and these are all good things. It's a good sign for the game.
Absolutely. And now, ladies and gentlemen, time for us to show you all the video clips. And first off, we will take the Shah Al-Taf try, and later on, it will be the Shahid Zumri try. Here you go.
Will go all the way and touches down for the second. Will go all the way and touches down for the second. Taken quickly. Now Isipatana running straight. Here's an opportunity, and that will be the first Amana Bank try. the Pathanians.
Well, there we have it. The video clips of the Prima 𝗥𝗂𝗡𝗍 tries of the week. Both such amazing tries. We had the Shahan Altaf in it, and the 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆 try, the opening try. Second, and it's down to lovingly Boa Athu to decide the Prima 𝗥𝗂𝗡𝗍 try of the week.
Well, for me, fairly easy pick, purely based on the individual skill set, the ability to, cop a bad pass, readjust himself, see the space, look for where the weak points of the defenders are, and just use the full skill set, being able to evade past defenders, and for a personal outstanding try. This week's Prima 𝗥𝗂𝗡𝗍 try or player of the week goes to none other than, drumroll, Trinity's Shahan Altaf. That try, solo effort, outstanding work. I think that really got everyone going, and it's one of those. It'll be one of those highlight reel stuff, and it'll probably be a contender for try of the season as well. Great work by 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆 as well. Team try. It was constructed, but like I said, for the individual effort, and reminded me of the Roadrunner. Just was incredible, So yeah, well done, and that's my Prima 𝗥𝗂𝗡𝗍 player of the week. And remember, folks, massive thanks to our sponsors. And when you get a chance, do sample the Prima 𝗥𝗂𝗡𝗍. I have to say, I haven't done that yet. But when I'm next in the Island Nation, probably on for the Rugby, I intend to check it out.
Yeah, indeed, of course. Yeah, and with that, we move on to the finals of this knockout tournament, which is Trinity College take on 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆. Like you said, Boa Athu, Jurassic Park. It's going to be a massive, massive, massive game there. And speaking of Shahan Altaf, this man, this skillful player, will be taking next weekend. And as well, I want to talk about 𝗥𝘂𝗡𝗍𝗯𝘆 alongside 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆. I think 𝗥𝘂𝗡𝗏, who scored hat-trick tries the same match against Royal at the first. I mean, 𝗥𝘂𝗡𝗍𝗯𝘆 and that man, 𝗥𝘂𝗡𝗏, two deadly players in the forward pack. Skillful linebacker. I'm just lost on words on how this is going to turn out. So I just took these two players because these three were the highlights on both games, which happened. Shahan Altaf on that side, 𝗥𝘂𝗡𝗏 scoring opening, and then this number 4 lock, I believe, Neville scoring back to back from the pick and goes. So it's going to be a thunderous game here at Jurassic Park. And I think the last rival game between these two sides was back in 2014. I remember Jayagir telling me that. So more from 2014 coming back to next week. These two superb teams. What do you think? Before we get into the hot seat, well, it is the hot seat. So we're very ready for that. But just your thoughts on how this, I know spoke about doing his segment, but I'm sure people like to know what's going to be the turnout here. How is Trinity College going to improve against the speed and fast Shahan Altaf and his team?
Yeah, look, with this final, what I want to do is I want to go through a few things and let's break this thing down. Now, as things are, being defending champs, and this is a very important thing, I have to say, because I'm a firm believer in statistics and looking at historical patterns. It's the venue. Had the game been played at the stadium, 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆 would have been, in my view, as defending champions and also coming off the tougher semi-final, clear favorites, no question about that. Okay. However, there are two key deciding factors here. Number one, I understand 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆 have a significant amount of injuries which they're waiting on. And both their wingers out, and of course, I hear that there's a few niggles in the forward pack as well, including broken bones and things like that. Now, how all that plays out is going to be very, very pivotal because it's a final. You've got to get your best available 23 for game day. But
Mm.
again, this is rugby. You have injuries, and you end of the day, you play with who you have, who's available, who's fit, who clears the fitness
Mhm.
test. So, given that, as I said, the first thing, the venue, we are now playing at Jurassic Park. I think that is a huge bonus and a huge leg up for Trinity, because Trinity have almost a little leasehold at Jurassic Park, and come the final, I feel Trinity will look to use this momentum which they've built, um, and don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if they start building scoreboard pressure using all the weapons they have at hand. Particularly, we might even see a few drop goals, or at least a drop goal. Because if you recall, last year Jurassic Park first leg, Shan Altaf on the goal line dropout nailed an absolute beauty of a drop goal. Okay, so I think
Yes.
we will
Yes.
see a lot of tactical kicking, and Trinity and this venue, it's a happy hunting ground for me. That's a huge factor. As far as Isipatana goes, this is their fourth knockout final, massive achievement, incredible work. So again, that tips. We know their finals pedigree, they're knockout specialists, so that tips the scale
Mhm.
slightly towards them. And then, of course, coming out against arguably the toughest opposition against Royal, being able to withstand that comeback, again, it just slightly tips it towards them. As far as Trinity goes, obviously, they've got the Altaf factor, and they're playing some really nice rugby. They're really playing some good footy when they want to, and that's definitely there. Then there's of course the Jurassic Park factor. They're using a lot of momentum. They're riding that momentum. They're being very innovative. They're creating little loopholes around the ruck. We saw that little reverse pass, those sort of things, and the the only factor which I think which will probably work against them is the fact that for 4 weeks now, back to back, they've had to come back to from Kandy to Colombo and head back again. So that's well over 1,000 kilometers of travel, and eventually, that could potentially take its toll, because these are school kids and we're all human. Now I hope that toll isn't going to come this week, and in fact, if they flip it and they use it to their advantage, it might be that they're quite acclimatized to being on the road. So, it's like
Well,
the roadshow of the Lions. So, taking everything into account with injuries, with everything I said, initially, my most likely outcome was that Isipatana would go on to win this final by 3 points or lesser. But with the change of venue and potential injury toll, I think Trinity has a very even chance. This is going to be one heck of a close game. There's two very likely outcomes. One, Isipatana to win by 3 points or lesser, or or we might see this go into extra time, golden point, and Trinity will force that. If that is indeed the case, I would favor Trinity because they have the advantage in goal kicking. So that might be a possible outcome as well. But on paper, I think Isipatana will probably have. We're talking a micro milligram of favoritism, but at the same time, this whole Jurassic Park venue is Trinity's happy hunting ground. And I did say early in the season on my Facebook page, this might be the dawn of the golden era for Trinity. And usually, when I say things like that, we know what happens. It's like the lotto numbers, dreams come true.
yeah.
So, hey, wait and see. I'll probably have a more conclusive prediction closer to the game when I know who the final starters are. But as things are, two most likely outcomes, we might see if Isipatana is to win, 3 points or lesser. If Trinity is to win, it's the same thing, 3 points or lesser. Or we could have a draw at full time and go into extra point, golden point. And the man of the hour, Altaf, might do the needful by way of either a drop goal or a
Yeah.
penalty goal. So let's wait and see. There you go.
Wow. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was hesitant to get this out. But see, out of his chest right now. Next week at the Jurassic Park, there you have, ladies and gentlemen, the predictions. And surely, for the very speaker I may be wrong or might be, but it's clear to see that both Shakib, Zumri, and then Shahnath of Africa started having the injuries. I'm sure this is the finals they want to be that. But let's hope and see. Boa, you gave the predictions. You gave the people what they wanted after the finals as well as the pre-defense. See what happens at Jurassic Park. And with that, and it's already 7 o'clock. We've completed an hour after the rugby show. We have improved our things compared to the last year's show. And with that, I think it's fair to tell Boa that we can once again thanking our beloved. Before this show, I just want to thank me and Boa personally, all the way from Quadrangle. I want to thank Queen for this splendid scholarships as well as No Limit, American Water, and ESU. And most of all, we want to thank the .com for allowing us to share their videos on our channel. See what I have missed, what I have. So thank you so much, Papa. And again, thank you for joining us on the show. Thank you, Chamat, our man behind the scenes, coordinating our videos, all our highlights. Jagid, or we call him Dasa, for handling the. Once again, thank you so much. Anything you stop this?
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you to all our sponsors and all our viewers out there. Love you guys, and of course, looking forward to this weekend for the final. And yeah, let's see how the cookie crumbles, because it's early in the season. It's difficult to get a form line, but I don't think I'm too far off what is eventually going to be the outcome. So best of luck to both teams. Play the game clean and hard, enjoy it, and to the fans, respect and adore your teams. Show humility, enjoy the moment. Just enjoy the moment, guys. All right, thank you, and you know the drill. I will see you soon.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you, everyone, for joining the show. So we will see you guys again. Till then, this time, Bazir and Bro to signing off. Take care.
As the pioneer in Sri Lanka's bottled water industry, American Water has set the standard for over 3 decades, made to be shared between friends. To fuel your next move, for a festive family meal, to help you stay hydrated wherever you may roam. For over 30 years, we've brought the Earth's bounty directly to you, wherever you are, whatever your needs.
Body roll.